What's going, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast and the final race one of this season, episode number 34 for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the F1 finale, the place where Nico Rosberg has been crowned world champion. Technically not actually crowned, because that'll be done in a week so time by the FIA, but he's got enough points to confirm himself as world champion. You're joined by the usual host, myself, Callum and Tom, and we got Justin in as like a special little four-man podcast here. Got a new arrangement you can see on screen right now, but guys, what did we make of that finale? What do we think about the championship as a whole? Rosberg winning it. Any kind of major thoughts straight away?
I thought it was quite hilarious, actually. The fact that Formula One was dedicated to the fact that it was all brought down to who could drive the slowest. At the end. It kind of reminded us. Well, I can't remember. There was one other race in this season, but it was literally just boiled down to who could drive the slowest. Hamilton driving the slowest to try and change up the race result, which I thought was quite interesting.
I think first things first. I think we all need to eat a bit of a humble pie. I think all four of us. I'm going to say at least us three usual hosts. We have to eat a humble pie. Yeah. I don't know if Justin, who your prediction was at the start of the season to be world champion, whether it was Rosberg or Hamilton, but we all said Hamilton. So humble pie required.
I would have predicted Hamilton. I mean, towards the later end of the season, I think you could definitely tell that Rosberg was, kind of in control and stuff. But early in the season, if you had asked me, I definitely would have said Hamilton. Honestly, I do think Hamilton is generally the better driver. He may not have been the better driver this year. He may have had bad luck, whatever. But I think Rosberg is a deserving champion 100%. And honestly, I think for the sake of the sport, it's good for Rosberg to be buoyed by this, because next year he's going to go into the fight against Hamilton as an equal, as a one-time world champion versus a three-time world champion. But that's a lot better than 0 versus 4. And I think if Hamilton had won the championship today, I think 2017 we would have seen a much different Rosberg. And I'm glad that we're going to get a good fight now on our hands, I think, for 2017.
Speaking of 2017, I want to put this forward to you guys because I do think about this quite a lot, but has Hamilton maybe won his last world title already? For example, let's say if next year's regulation change does affect the shuffle of the grid and Mercedes aren't the top team, he's 31-32.
If Mercedes aren't
maybe?
Like in the top two teams, then there's
like,
a slight possibility, but I think he's too good to count out for one more title somewhere.
It's like, when Button won his last race in Brazil, you never would have thought that would have been his last race win, but it turned out it was.
Yeah.
In terms of regulation change, though, because obviously, do you know how Mercedes have all of a sudden become so good because of the engine regulation? Because this is an aero regulation change, I kind of think that Mercedes will still be there. I don't think it's physically possible for them to drop off that much. Because I think
but it might upset the balance of their car.
It's the same. It's kind of the same thing with like McLaren going from 2008 to 2009. You might see Mercedes maybe drop off a little bit, but they'll soon get back to where they were pretty quickly. And I think we'd see that with any top team, really, because I think they'll still always have that knowledge, and I think they'd still be able to put the money in to then regain. Because look how much money they've gained over the past couple of years now with all the constructors' titles and everything. And
you say that, but haven't they reported a loss?
But that's just how the business model works.
Yeah, that's the thing. But with Mercedes, I think next year we're still going to see Hamilton and Rosberg going for the title. It just depends on.
Well, Ferrari, I hope that it's them plus maybe the two Red Bulls.
Yeah,
and
I'd love
one
to.
of the Ferraris, or even better if there's both the Ferraris and they're there. But that's very.
I think today gave us a taste of what we've missed for so long, having like the three top teams running so close. That was so nice. Like, just at the start of the race when you had all three teams on the same straight within like 5 seconds of each other for a little while, just sort of running in that order. I think it was nice to have that. It makes you realise that even though there wasn't a lot of overtaking, like towards the end of the race, it was tense.
It made you realise how OP Mercedes are as well. The fact that they drove so slow and they still won and got 1-2.
They still got 1-2. That's
I
disappointing.
think that's the thing with the whole running in 6. It's just like, even if there aren't any overtakes, if one of the 6 drivers makes a mistake, they're going from the front to the back of the train. And that's it. Like any sort of mistake, and I think that the intensity factor and the pressure, which probably outlines Rosberg's championship a lot more, because obviously the pressure was on him about if he bottles under pressure or not. So I think this was the perfect race to kind of prove that no, he doesn't bottle under pressure.
If he'd bottled this, the amount of bottles that would have been created would have been absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, it would be.
Mercedes got a 20% sales increase in their car sales after they started winning the World Championship.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
Wow.
So
they're going to want to keep that.
As a company, yeah. As a car company.
Best Audi in car sales in 2015 for the first time in a while. So, yeah, I think it is very important for them to at least stay near the front. So, I mean, I think they know that next year is going to be an aero formula, and I think they're going to dedicate their funds accordingly.
Yeah,
and they've got the personnel to make their car along the aero formula era,
and even saying that, like,
sense.
it sounds like maybe we're saying they don't have good aero. They still have very decent aero. It's just the fact that Red Bull.
Have you seen the state of that car?
I think
aero.
It's just I think that is the reason. Their aero is that good right now that will next year's regulations sort of upset the sort of really good balance they have with their car. That's my point.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there's new things to learn. Because there will be.
It's like Red Bull in their prime, like in 2011 and 2013, but prior. Sorry, no, that more or less 2011, 2013, especially 2011. They were in the zone with the diffuser, and then when they switched that, it took them a while to get back there. And even in 2012, but even in 2012, they never really dominated again.
Yeah, they didn't dominate.
They were in the pack.
They dropped back. They didn't drop back so low, and you could see, especially towards the end of the season with Vettel's momentum, they finally got the hang of the new exhaust system. So it's it definitely probably will be a learning curve for every team as well, especially learning all the new aero and how it all works. But it's certainly going to be a very interesting one. I do very much agree with Justin. I think not just only Nico. I think the sport it's nice to have a new champion, just to have a different name, and just a bit of break in the rhythm that we've maybe been setting into of like, I think the interviewer said that.
One of those championships when Vettel was dominating, that probably would have made things a lot more interesting.
Yeah. It's like hitting the reset button, really. Especially between them two as well, because winning a world champion, if your teammate wins a world championship, that is a big blow to you. I think for any set of drivers. Yeah. And to say Hamilton's had this momentum of 2014, 2015, and then going to 2016, obviously he's had the momentum at the end of the season, but just because of that Malaysia engine failure, it's just been taken out of his grasp. And I think by now Rosberg, and like we said, I perfectly agree that it's a good reset. It's good to see Rosberg finally get that. And then now he can prove himself. Can he go on to get a second, a third? Can he move into the territory of Hamilton and Vettel, move further and further into that? But I think also by going into this aero formula now, it's a very good reset. I think it kind of just wipes the floor a little bit clean and go, right, new equipment, you have another guy, and let's see who is world champion this year.
Yeah.
It's much. Honestly, I got really. I've accepted it because we've got a rule change next year, but the amount of 1-2s Mercedes have had this year, it's like
it's not good for
the pack. The pack is getting closer, but they're not really getting closer because they've had 20 out of the 21 poles. Rosberg's been on the front row every single race this season in qualifying.
It's pretty mad. Yeah, it's pretty mad. Speaking about the race, I guess we talked about the Mercedes a little bit. We might come back to them at the end. Come back to the conversation. So for the rest of them, well, the start was quite thrilling for one person, Max Verstappen, going for a little spin, and I don't know how on earth he made that work in any way to come back on super softs and manage to convert to a one-stop. I don't know how he did that.
I don't know how he does it.
It was madness. It was absolutely mad.
That's 2 races on the bounce where he's just shown that he can just cruise for a field and not.
Did he finish ahead of Ricardo in the end?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Even though Ricardo obviously was on fresher tyres, cruised up to the back of Verstappen and just didn't get past him. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe just because of dirty air.
Maybe.
Or maybe he just wasn't allowed to. But
I didn't feel like the tyre wear was that bad this race. Tyre wear didn't seem that bad. I thought Mercedes could have easily done a stop less. They
came in quite early, but I think they were being extra cautious because they didn't want to throw away either of their drivers.
Even with their pit stops, they're super cautious. Like they could have gone so much earlier on both times for Hamilton and Nico when the Ferraris come down the pit lane. Like literally, there was like a second almost between them releasing. So they were super cautious this race to make sure that it was all done on the track, and whatever happened with the championship was on the track. But super impressive for them. And then we mentioned Vettel coming back through, and it was nice to see that fire under his arse almost of Vettel just planting through, making the moves and charging through once again, because we haven't really seen that Sebastian in a while.
Honestly, I was watching that whilst at work, the amount of poo that came out when he sliced in front of, I think it was Verstappen at the end of the straight.
Yeah. No, it was Ricciardo.
Ricciardo. It was so like,
hell.
I watched it, I was like, it's like, poo's come out. It was so close. And when you watch the replay, how he sparked up so much right in front of Ricciardo as he cut right in front of him before the corner.
The sparks make it extra dramatic. They're just wow.
Man, that was so good.
Woo. It does make it very, very interesting. But no, just in terms of like Red Bull overall, it looked like Red Bull had outsmarted Ferrari in terms of strategy. And I think initially, Ferrari were on course because they pit Raikkonen when Hamilton came in. And I think that was a very good choice because normally when they leave a Ferrari out, it doesn't go too well. And obviously when they left out Vettel, I tweeted out, I was like, well, that's Ferrari. Once again proving that they aren't very good at strategy. Obviously ate them words when Vettel decided to absolutely blitz it. And like I've said, it was nice to see Vettel back in that zone of just pushing. Because at the start of the race, he was dropping back from that top little group. And he was just dropping back from, I think it was Ricciardo. Yeah, it must have been Ricciardo. And then as soon as he got his new tyres on, he just had the speed. And it was absolutely incredible to see that Vettel was back in that zone, in that like the red mist had descended and he'd just gone. And just
gives him confidence going to winter. Gives Ferrari a bit of confidence with at least a podium, best of the rest going into the winter. As I think EJ said in Channel 4 in the post coverage, they have a lot of rebuilding to do over the winter. But we won't get so much into that because I think we're going to try and plan to do something over the December break for an extra podcast talking about the future and stuff like that. So getting more back to the race, after the Ferraris and Red Bulls, we obviously had the two Force Indias, 7th and 8th, and they've secured 4th place, which is so impressive. So impressive.
That's massive, yeah.
To me, as a guy's been watching F1 for such a long time, to me it's just incredible. It's like, Jordan came in 91, they were here, going through the 90s, they started to build up, a Force India now, and then come like 2000, 2002, something like that, they just went like that. And now they just started rebuilding again as Force India, up. And we'll just see if they just down or they keep just going up.
Right, with it being an aero formula next year, that's obviously not good for Force India.
Yeah. Once in the press conference.
In a sense, yes.
In the team press conference, I don't know who was the representative of Force India, but he said he seemed a bit sceptical. I think he said that he was waiting. Well, Force India were hoping for other teams to screw up.
I saw that.
And that doesn't give your drivers too much confidence going into the new year. And maybe, because this is the thing, like...
Hulkenberg's a smart guy.
This is the thing for Hulkenberg, because it's kind of like, I watched an interview afterwards, and he was like, oh yeah, like we're really happy that we got 4th place in the championship and everything. And then you kind of question, like, oh, surely you want to carry that on and see what you can do next year. But I think Hulkenberg just deep down knows that they aren't going to do well next year.
I've always said, even though Renault aren't good at the moment, him going to Renault, even if it's the next season, it's a brilliant move. It's a really good move. That will repay him. That's like a Lewis Hamilton-esque move.
It's a long-term move
in 2013.
Yeah, long-term.
So the first season might not be great, but the second season, I think he'll start to feel the benefits from it. So, I think Hulkenberg's a smart guy. He's on the older side of 20 now, so he had to take a risk, and I think this could be a good choice.
I think it's the safer choice, honestly. I mean, they're a manufacturer team. They've got budget.
Financially safe.
This car is not representative of Renault. It's representative of Lotus in 2015, who had absolutely no cash whatsoever. So I fully expect Renault and Force India to almost swap positions next year. So I think it's great that Force India got this. I think it will be nigh on impossible for them to hold on to this 4th place position in 2017. But I mean, clearly, Sergio had the Ferrari links back in the day when he was at Sauber. Obviously, he wants to go to Ferrari in 2018, so that's why he didn't go for Renault. But I almost wish he did. I almost wish Sergio had wanted to go to Renault because it's only a matter of time with them, really.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Even if they're not winning, they'll be a top 4 team.
Oh yeah,
easy.
They'll be up there. But in terms of today, Force India probably the easiest Grand Prix they've ever had because they had no challenge from Williams.
Even the weekend as a whole, qualifying yesterday,
so quiet. It was just an easy.
It was. They were in their own pocket so much so they just have a nice battle in between teams.
Yeah, they had a really nice battle as well. It was good to see the battle.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, I agree. You had the top 6 teams and then you had the rest of the pack, and there was a big gap in between, like, even in qualifying. So they just sort of filled that gap, the two of them, and they were just doing their own little race.
Yeah, and then we had Felipe Massa getting points. Obviously, Bottas retired quite early on, which was a shame for him, but he's obviously continuing
What happened to Bottas? I didn't see.
He had a damper
suspension.
issue on his rear, so
failure.
he was saying the car was bouncing around when he was fighting against Massa. So he retired. They thought they could maybe look into it.
Struggling.
Yeah, I think it was into
I missed that, so I didn't know.
third sector, I want to say, around that area. He noticed the car bouncing around, so they retired him. Massa, though, continued on, got points in his final race in Formula One, and I think he had a nice fight with Bottas at the beginning, and then just
it was
did
nice
his race.
to see you, gloves off.
Yeah,
Sod it. Let's
nice
have
little...
a battle with my teammate.
For it.
Because I think even Williams kind of knew that they weren't going to beat Force India today. Like, they weren't going to overhaul them in the championship.
Well, it was 28 points.
Well, it ended up being
impossible.
quite a sizable margin, actually. Like, Force India, like, comfortably, like, overhauled them for
easy.
fourth, which is brilliant. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Third and fourth wouldn't have been enough. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's assuming both Force Indias retire.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So it was always going to be an uphill battle, and then we.
Great for Massa though. I just want to say I haven't always been a huge fan of Massa. Canada 2014. He's a great guy, and I am legitimately going to miss him from F1.
He's a great sportsman. I think that's the thing, especially at the end of 2008 when he just took it on, not took it on the chin, but he at least embraced the fact that he still won the race in Brazil. He still tried as hard as he could. He just took it as himself, and he provided that he is a good sportsman in that. And obviously there's a lot of, especially recently with the whole Hamilton-Rosberg, and then talk about Button as well leaving, there's a lot of old sportsmanship and all this sort of stuff, but honestly, it's probably one of the funniest and like just down to earth guys in the paddock. And it will be, as much as we've slated him in this podcast, and as much as we've said that his time has passed, it's been nice to see him at least attempt Williams, at least try something different. And at the end of the day, I don't know, because I think it's good to see that Bottas is now going to get. I've said this quite a bit. It's good to see that Bottas is now going to get a challenge from a youngster, and it's nice to see a youngster come into the sport. Because I was talking on Twitter the other day. It's the problem is with these old drivers, they hog the seats for quite a long time. Yeah. So it's nice to see some young talent come in.
Button.
Especially, exactly with Button as well, and probably the next one's Raikkonen as well. So, but no, it is incredible end to his career with a nice little battle with Bottas, which was nice.
And so I don't quite know what his plans are for after F1. I think he wants to try. He still needs to try and find a series. He hasn't really zoned in on something yet. But to finish out in the points,
I think he's done.
His teammates retiring the race, so all round pretty decent send off for him. Alonso, 10th place. I think we didn't talk about it on the podcast last time, but I think us three, Cal and Tom, have talked about it offline. Off camera, in terms of how genuinely I think a lot of people have oversighted how good of a job Alonso's done this season to just keep dragging that car up, which you saw on the straights today as well, was still in deficit of many cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. And
I mean,
Lando's incredible. I mean, I'm going to be even more sad when he leaves than
I agree.
Jenson and Massa leaving, to be totally honest. I mean, I think he's a living legend. I think Hamilton and Vettel are living legends as well. But I mean, these guys are like the titans of our sport, and I have massive respect for Alonso, probably more than other drivers even. I mean, Sergio Perez is my favorite driver, but I mean, I probably respect Alonso the most. I mean, the man's incredible.
The thing is about Alonso is he's always there delivering. He's always there. Like he just sneaks into the points all the time. He sneaks into qualifying 3 all the time, and I think you got to be very careful in terms of judging his performance against judging how well. Because obviously a lot of people they like to hype up McLaren, going, "Oh my God, they got into Q3 again." I think McLaren are on the teetering edge of Q3, so I think it's not the fact that McLaren are getting into Q3. It's just the fact it's in the race performances, where Alonso is just always there. He's always challenging, and he's just trying to get the most out of the car. And obviously, we saw today, he got blitzed by the Force India when he passed him. But he's just doing the best that he can. And he can be very vocal, as can Vettel, as can any driver on the grid. And I'd rather see passion than just kind of hiding it from the media. I'd rather him say what he means, rather than kind of putting like a little lid on that, because he's probably one of the most passionate drivers I think we've got on this grid, Alonso. And
he's got a lot of fight.
He has got so much fight just still bubbling inside, which I think next year is going to be the turning point in his career.
Well, we'll see. If he enjoys next year's cars, which
hopefully,
I think we all hope that he does, so he stays around a little bit longer. And because if he's in it, I think if he's in like one of those like really aggressive F1 cars, like we're hyping 2017 to be, he can do a lot of work. Just like move that steering wheel around, left to right, left to right at the very start of the grid, get kind of stuck in there. So we'll see. But lately he seemed a lot more just like there was this part in the middle way of the season. There's this part in the middle of the season where he just seemed a little bit, I don't, like, especially at Monza, he was like, I don't enjoy the cars. Next year's really it. But then, as we came to the end of the season, he's been sort of like upbeat, like, okay, yeah, I'm liking what we're working on for next season, and we just try and do our best. And he's been upbeat about just getting 1 point, even though it is just 1 point, but it's still a point for McLaren. Thinking back to where they've been before in the last 2 years, it's great achievement.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, listen, Button's a great driver, and his record speaks for itself. And if you look at the points Alonso's got this season compared to him, it just shows he's beaten a very good teammate this year, and the points difference between the two says a lot. Alonso this year, honestly, really has put in a shift.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of people don't give him the credit. So, he's had a great season this year.
More than double over Button.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I saw it the other day.
Taking in retirements into consideration as well, that's still a massive achievement when you're only picking up 1 or 2 points per race. That's accumulated over the entire season, which is absolutely
consistent as well.
It's consistency is key, and
when
when qualifying hasn't gone well, like in Malaysia, it's just like, yeah, you know what, I'm still going to finish in 7th because that's what I want to do.
Oh yeah, that was a huge part of his 2012 campaign. Consistency, just keep on racking.
I think his 7th place has been his place. I think he's had the most 7th places out of anyone this year. I think he's always finishing 7th.
Yeah, it's a lot like my career mode. 7th place all the time in qualifying in the McLaren.
Yeah, all the time.
Speaking about the other side of the garage, obviously it was an unfortunate way to end it. Hit the curb, and his suspension.
It's okay. It's okay, mate.
You're not looking the right way, mate. You don't know where you are in the new overlay.
It's okay, mate. It's okay.
I think you're going to be in the bottom right, so look up. Look directly up. That's where I'm going to be.
Oh, God, we're not in the line anymore. Oh, God.
No, wait.
Sorry about that, mate.
Screw with me.
You're going to be in the bottom right, Tom. You're on the bottom right. I'm on the top right. So look up. Like that. Cal looks to his left.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
And then Justin looks like left top. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that way. That way. Yeah, that way.
Yeah, that's how it looks. I don't know how it's going to look now. Like when I edit it, it's going to look quite funny actually looking at each other. But undeserved way to end it. But at the same time, you saw. I don't know if you guys saw the Channel 4 interview afterwards, but it looked like he had a few drinks already. As soon as he got out of the pen, had a few.
He really didn't give a crap.
Yeah,
I'm being honest with you.
He's happy, and I'm satisfied and happy with the fact that he's happy. Like, it would have been bad. I would have felt a lot worse if it didn't seem like he was quite ready to leave. But he seems so ready to just say "fuck off, F1." He's ready, joking around with DC and Webber to be like, "Oh, let's start a rallycross team," or something like that, or just have a few drinks and just party and just kind of relax and enjoy his life a little bit. So, undeserved way to end it.
I would love that. Do you remember what I said about in the Brazil race about these sort of special occasions never end well?
Yeah.
I said Massa's didn't end well in his home race. Buttons didn't end well. These things just don't end well. It's a fact of life.
I like what Martin Brundle said. There was just like, because obviously it was quite clear what Button did to retire his car, because he just did a Felipe Massa of India when he kept ripping off his front suspension, and they kept going like, surely they've got enough time to just attach another wishbone on and just send it back out just to at least finish the race, and then he'll be able to do his donuts, which would have been nice to see. It'd just be nice to go on, get him back out there, and just let him finish off his last race properly. But I've just got to echo what everyone else has said, to be honest. It's just good to see that he's happy, which you don't want to be in. I think Formula One's that big sport where if you're not enjoying it, it's very obvious to see. It's very obvious, because it's in performances, it's in interviews, it's the whole morale around the team as well. That it's all the whole team focuses around the two drivers, and if one of the two drivers even are a little bit off, then it just kind of
obviously
ruin the whole morale.
Going to next year now, they'll have fresh blood. Van Dorn, he'll be so motivated to try and do his best because it's going to be his first year in there. So I think
I'm not going to pile the pressure on him straight away. I want to see him first properly because there's so much hype on him. But I'm going to wait and see first.
In Bahrain, He performed in Bahrain, so...
I was just talking about he'll galvanise the mechanics.
He'll love it. He'll love the fact that he's got Fernando Alonso as a teammate.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, I think also that's a great mentor to have as a teammate.
Yeah.
Great yardstick as well to measure yourself.
Speaking of enjoying and not enjoying, even though it's not in the right order, we could sort of switch to Toro Rosso and a certain Russian who started the year in a Red Bull and ended it on a bike.
That was a great shot. That was great. Yeah.
Probably not even that, to be honest.
Yeah, it was great scenes on your bike. Yeah, Toro Rosso.
What a rotten weekend for Toro Rosso. I watched practice and qualifying. I watched all of it.
It's just that issue they had with the tyre, and it just didn't allow them to have any setup work. So, yeah, annoying way for them to end.
Default setup. Not as good as F1 2016's default setup, to be honest, if you look at it. If you weigh it up.
Clever old Julian Palmer decided that Carlos Sainz's gearbox looked quite yummy going into the braking zone.
Yummy, yum, yum.
That was the best accident I've ever seen in my entire life. It was like
even like going for a move.
Lobby. He's just braking for the corner like normal, and then boop, someone hits him up the rear.
But from Palmer's on board, it looked like it was in slow motion. Like he looked up so early on, and he just kept on getting closer and closer and closer. And eventually, he just tapped you, and he just went around.
That was one of the moments, like the split second before he hits the car. It just like the record shrieks and pauses, like, "Hi, you're probably wondering how I got in this situation. Well."
I laughed. I genuinely laughed at that accident.
It was just such a silly.
The way the camera,
panned.
The live camera, not
live.
the replays. The way the live camera shot it, it just looked like Palmer got annoyed by Sainz overtaking when he was trying to let the other car through on the blue flags and just went "fuck off."
But it's on the live camera. The first shot is Rosberg going through, and they move off to the side to allow Rosberg to go through. And then when they switch to the next one, which is next to the hotel, you just see Sainz entering backwards. And Palmer going for track.
Yeah.
It was, I think, just a weekend to write off for Toro Rosso, and I think almost a season as well, because it's just
their engine has been their downfall.
The moment, as much as at the start of the season, it'd be like, oh yeah, it didn't really matter. It's only a 2015 Ferrari. It won't be that bad. It has basically proved how bad the races that proved why it was so bad was like Singapore when they did so good. Because the actual car is good. It's almost like on the level of Force India. But when you've got a donkey in the back, it doesn't really matter, to be honest. So it was a bit of a shame. And then I think Kvyat retired with I don't even know. Does anyone care, to be honest? But he retired with something wrong. I think it was all, to be fair, his retirement and Sainz's retirement was all just a pray for a safety car. That's all we wanted, just to make it a little bit more interesting.
I have to say, their car has been poor, but it kind of highlights the performances that they've given when they have given performances.
Yeah. It's been very impressive when they do.
When one of them performs now, or when they perform this season, we would all be like, well, I mean, they did that in a terrible car, what is essentially a horrible car. So they must be incredible drivers, So it's almost a blessing as a driver to have a bad car, because that you have that to fall back on. You could be like, well, yeah, imagine where I would have been if I didn't have this garbage car.
I do think with Toro Rosso in particular, I think Sainz and Kvyat, those two drivers, for very different reasons, we could spend 10 minutes on each of those two in this video, but I think we'll save those things for
we don't want to go too in depth because we are going to try and plan something. But,
should we move on to the American team, being as they finished in 11th?
They finished 11th. Yay!
Again.
To be fair, a very quiet weekend for them as well. We haven't really seen much of the Haas.
Grosjean was pissed off all weekend. Like, literally, someone must have pissed in his breakfast or something. He was angry all weekend.
It's just a little bit weird. He was just...
He definitely ended this season a lot angrier than he started.
But after Australia, he was buzzing. So
this is unbelievable.
The stress, maybe being the lead driver, just the stress put on your shoulders, of being as he put it, the only point scorer in the team.
Right? Yeah. No. I mean, again, we'll save the majority of that for like the closing thing. But yeah, I mean, Grosjean did. I don't know what it's from or something, but there's this like clip of a skit or something somewhere where this person is saying, "I do my job." And like that's how Grosjean can feel. Like he did his part. He could put his
he's put his hands up. Like, okay,
did everything I can for you guys. And I don't think Esteban is good enough for F1. I didn't think he was good enough for F1 in 2013.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I never rated him very highly. I mean, like, if anything, he should be in a backmarker car. He should be like in a Manor or something like that.
I think he has these few good races, but I think it proves the point now. Like even in 2013 in the Sauber, which was a decent car, it took him until Japan to score his first points when Hulkenberg was getting fourth places for fun.
I remember Hulk in Korea in 2013 holding up front runners. And
normally Alonso. Yeah. It was normally
exactly.
Hulkenberg and Alonso. That
was they love to
same part of track. If
It's
anyone remembers that, but Haas, I think it's just another weekend where it's
a good first season.
Points.
Let's not forget.
Yeah,
so,
almost points once again.
Yeah, as a private team. Obviously, some help from Ferrari, but essentially a private team. Most of it, it's
they did what all these other teams couldn't. They did what HRT couldn't. They did what Caterham couldn't. They did what Manor Marussia couldn't. They did what all these teams couldn't do, and that is score points in your first season. And I think that whole team should be ecstatic, even if it was a difficult end to the season. I do know that they switched their focus to 2017 early on, though, which I think is a smart choice. You know, they got early in the season, and boom, they're on to 2017, focusing on that. And I think hopefully we'll see that pay dividends early in 2017, where we'll have a similar sort of result where you know Haas can be really strong at the beginning.
For sure,
Magnussen will be a much more solid second driver. They'll have a much more solid package, and also
that's an exciting lineup. Grosjean, Magnussen.
Yeah. That's a solid lineup.
It's a nice lineup to have.
Like Justin said, I think they started working on their next year's car before the first race this year. So I think Haas and Manor are the only two teams who started working on their 2017 car before the first race of the season.
That is quite surprising. But actually, speaking about Manor, we could talk about them in this race. They were battling each other. They got one little bit of showtime and screen time whilst they both rammed each other off the circuit, which was probably just a battle for... I don't know who was at the inside of who, but I think if it was in Verline's position, it was just like a kind of bit of a fuck you for nicking my Force India seat. Because we've all got mixed kind of thoughts on that. It's kind of like, really? I've been in this team all season, and you've walked in, and now you're going off to...
I own all the points this team has scored. There's only one, but I own all of them.
Yeah, all of them.
And all picking him.
And even that 1 point didn't matter anyway, because Sauber, who finished 15th and 16th today, they ruined their party after I think...
first season where everyone scored points since God knows when.
I feel like it's such a pointless... Like, when Sauber scoring points in Brazil, I feel like,
2009, I want to say,
with a bit of hindsight, that is the most pointless ninth place in 2 points ever. Because I feel like out of Sauber and Manor's a team that's got more potential to develop, because one, they have much better drivers anyway. And it's like Sauber, since that last race, they've lost their Banco de Brazil, their main sponsor. They're going to lose Felipe Nasr. It's like they're going to use this year Ferrari engines next year's car. Yeah, was there any point in them getting points? They should have just not got the points.
That point's the point where I'm just going, this year's Ferrari, we've seen how bad it's worked out for Toro Rosso, and Sauber don't have the same aero department as Toro Rosso.
Exactly. So they should have just let Manor have the point and let them develop, because they know they're not going to be competitive next year, even with the 9th place.
Should have sacrificed it, Hunger Games style, just like, go on, do it for us, do it for all the backmarkers.
Yeah. Well, the fun fact is, it was 2009, the last season, where every team scored points.
Yeah, 2009.
7 years.
And
so I do want to put a spanner in the works.
The beginning of that era and the end of this mini era.
This year, yeah.
I do want to put a spanner in the works. I do think a driver transfer that has been announced, I think Gutierrez will take the remaining Sauber seat.
That would be a good shout, actually. I could see that happening. I mean, he's already driven for them once before. He's got that
Need the money.
He was, he
Ferrari
was
link.
Also seen talking
Ferrari
to...
link.
who is it? I can't remember. Manisha.
Kaltenborn.
Manisha.
The Ferrari link, because he's a Ferrari driver.
Yes.
And Sauber's Ferrari engines.
So
that's my prediction.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And Gutierrez in the most mild and terrible. It's got Sutil Gutierrez 2014 written all over it. Like
There's nothing interesting about it. But I think, to be fair, looking at the bottom of the field, apart from obviously Bottas that we already spoke about, Magnussen obviously retired due to something. He probably got bored. That's right at the back. But I kind of want to move the focus back, because it was quite a big talking point during the race and also after, especially Sky F1, because they obviously love to stir the pot.
Oh, yeah.
The whole Hamilton slowing down Rosberg. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it sportsmanlike?
Well, you know what? It was fucking tense in the last 5 laps, so...
Or is it the winner's blood, or are all Formula 1 champions selfish in their own right?
It's
Give me your thoughts.
I think anyone in that position would have tried something to that effect. You got to try it at least.
Well, we criticize, but none of us are F1 drivers.
Exactly.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like,
yeah.
Like, if it were me, and I'm guilty of this too. If it were me, I wouldn't do that because that's a dick thing to do. But it's like I'm not an F1.
I've only done that on AI cars.
I've got my.
I wasn't raised in the culture. I wasn't. I haven't been doing that my entire life. I mean, it's easy for people to criticize. I think again, I'm guilty of it too. And I don't think it's very sportsmanlike. But at the same time, like you said, Arav, anyone would have done the same thing on the grid. I don't think there's a single driver.
I don't think so. I don't think. I actually disagree. I think there's only 2 drivers who would ever do such a thing, and those 2 don't race anymore. One of them's dead, and the other one's almost dead. Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna are the only 2 drivers who have the balls to do things that aren't nice.
You could argue
Hamilton and Vettel were like the next 2, and Alonso maybe, who I can see doing that. Rosberg's like a nice guy. I can't see him doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, fair play. I couldn't see Rosberg doing something like that. I think Rosberg would just kind of accept
as much as people want to stir the pot about Spa 2014, saying he did it on purpose,
and Monaco,
I don't believe it.
I could see Alonso doing it because Alonso's very feisty. Like especially we've seen like back in the day when he was like defending from cars. I could see him doing it. Vettel. In a sense, I feel like Vettel's more kind of he would do something mean when he was attacking, trying to overtake someone. I think he's less of a driver who would do something mean while he was defending from someone.
But along the lines of disobeying team orders as well, because obviously Hamilton... Because to be fair, I quite like Hamilton's little witty comments of, oh, you need to go faster to actually win the race. And he was just like, well, I am in the race lead, aren't I?
It was the true Hamilton, though. It was the PC Hamilton we see sometimes at podiums going, hey, how's everyone doing? Like in Japan, saying a Japanese phrase and, going in Russia, like, I'm glad to be here in Russia. That's the PC Hamilton. What we saw in the cockpit there, that's the real Hamilton. Fuck you. No, this is my own race. I'm doing it. That was the real Hamilton. And that it's hit the racer in him of going, no, I'm good. I'm just doing the driving here. So I'm fine. No, thanks.
The way I see it, because I think it's controversial. I find it funny because I think, me personally, I don't think it's the right thing to do. I don't agree with it. However, as a neutral, I enjoyed it because it made for an interesting end of the race. I'm not going to complain. However, I'm looking at Twitter now. There are so many Hamilton fans who can't take the abuse of some people who are dishing it out. It's like, listen, it's part of it. You've got to suck it up. And you can't complain about people throwing shade to your driver for doing something that you know is not right. It's like,
I wouldn't say it's not right. It's not sportsmanlike especially in terms of your team.
To be honest,
but then again, haven't we already seen this plenty of times with them two anyway? In terms of, like crashing into each other. Like, I'm not being funny or anything, but like, dependent on how your viewpoint is. Okay, probably Austria. It was probably the most Rosberg fault. Like there was more swinging towards Rosberg than Hamilton in terms of fault on that one. And you could argue that obviously it's unsportsmanlike because people say, "Oh, he brakes with it." Excuse here. At the end of the day, no driver is going to be full on sportsmanlike because there's always going to be a little bit of rubbing. There's always going to be a little bit of tapping, and we've seen that with all the Mexico drama.
I think what's important is
weaving in front of people. I don't see, at the end of the day, it's the entertainment factor of Hamilton wanted to win the World Championship. And by doing, the only way he could do it, it could have been 40 seconds up the road. That still wouldn't have changed anything.
I think the important thing
he was obliged to do something.
Sportsmanship is primarily, I feel it's okay. Yes, there's some sportsmanship on track and on the football pitch and stuff like that. But it's a real testament of sportsmanship is what you do after you've lost or won.
Yeah, it's your reaction.
The thing is, from this weekend, I'm not actually annoyed at Hamilton at all, and I don't really care. It was nice and entertaining. What I found an issue with was afterwards. The way he conducted himself in some of those interviews. I don't know what interviews you guys watched, but the one I watched with Lee McKenzie on Channel 4. he took a few sly jabs at Nico and just generally didn't, wasn't very respectful in a way of congratulations. She said that, okay, so do you feel, okay, you've all had equal tools. Yes, you've had some poor luck, but at the end of the day, he's beaten you this season. And he said, I'm not too sure about that. And it's just like, I know you're feeling like that. I know you're raw. You've just come off a Grand Prix. And maybe you'll feel differently after a day, and then you'll say some stuff in other interviews. But I don't care what he did on track. He can back him up as much as he wants, but he lost it anyway.
I didn't see any interviews because I was driving home. But what he said on Thursday, where he basically dropped a hint as about the mechanic swap thing that they do every year.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Just those sort of things. I just don't think
it's just not
necessary.
Needed. It's not needed, and the way he just. The only point where he, really congratulated Nico, he gave him a little squeeze, a little hug in the pen, but really it was the main thing of DC kind of saying, shake hands, let's have a few words between you two on the podium. And then we went back to the interviews and just had some sly words, and Mark Webber and DC and also Susie Wolf, all three of them, profusely disagree with the way he conducted himself in that interview, saying that, okay.
And then there's Sky F1 stirring the bloody pot so bad.
That's why I'm glad I didn't watch Sky for once this weekend.
The Sky F1 were literally asking, the first questions were like, to Paddy Lowe and to Wolf was just like, why did you tell Lewis to speed up? Why were you doing that? Why? It's like, really? It's Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert needs a punch to the teeth with some of the shit he comes out with.
I can't stand that guy.
I thoroughly enjoyed Channel 4's coverage this weekend.
But at the end of the day, I tweeted out before the start of the race, I said I wanted an interesting title fight.
And we got one.
We got one.
Very tense. Last 5 laps, I don't care about these two drivers. I've never supported them ever.
I've never cheered on Kimi Raikkonen and Vettel so much in my life. And I've never been so annoyed at Raikkonen all my life, but he holding up Ricciardo. And
I've done that plenty of times over the last few years because of the whole Mercedes thing. But I don't care about these two, Nico and Lewis. But I was generally like heart pounding, like, oh God, are they going to make contact? I was like, okay, is Hamilton actually going to do this, or is Rosberg going to hold on? This is generally heart in mouth stuff.
That last stint with Vettel, I inside me, I had like an inner Arriva Bene where he's shouting, like going, vai, vai, and the headset's falling off his head as he's shouting, going, go, vai. That was me. It's like, I'm watching it whilst cleaning the cups at work. I'm like, go on.
Yeah.
This could be actually the one.
Seen it, people watching the podcast, but Justin, when Perez got taken out, he had this brilliant reaction. I'm just picturing that for like, if you were like a Vettel fan or like a Rosberg or Hamilton, just going, no! It was real tense. It was good.
Yeah, it was better than 20.
And also at the same time, we also
in 2014 too.
And also at the same time, before that, Rosberg answered a few of the Hamilton fan critics saying, he needs to prove that he's a champion by making a very ballsy move on Verstappen, who psychologically had one over him from previous races. And Rosberg even said that in post interviews. He kept on saying, when I saw Verstappen there, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, this is the last guy I thought I'd be seeing today, and now I have to try and pass him.
Him as well. He cut him right up, as in like when Vettel cut Ricciardo up in the exact same place.
It was a good
move.
He
made the move. That was also scary. That was ballsy.
At the end of the day, Nico Rosberg finished this championship with 385 points. Hamilton 380. He's world champion for a reason because he's got more points than Hamilton.
Points.
Simple as that.
Anyone that says that Lewis Hamilton deserves it, there's always ifs, there's always buts. You can argue for every single world championship.
I've always said the argument of saying he deserved it because he had more whatever, or he had more bad luck, and then a lot of Hamilton fans say, oh, he should have won it in 2012, he should have won it in 2010, he should have won it in 2007. Then I just reply saying, yeah, by that logic, Michael Schumacher would have been a 15-time world champion because he came second so many times. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. What happens.
You win what you win.
What happens.
Exactly. So
it's happened. It's over. The
as.
Season's over. So just let's enjoy the end of the season and then look forward to what should be a very unknown. I'm not going to say exciting because I'm still very, especially with what I'm studying at uni. I'm very, very skeptical of how amazing this next season's apparently going to be with aerodynamics. But an interesting season nonetheless coming up. It's going to be winter testing is going to be so unknown.
The first podcast we do for winter testing is going to be.
It's going to be like, so Tom, do you want to get your notes out? Yeah, I've got 3 pages of A4 here about different things that happen.
Yeah, just give me a second, mate. Yeah.
So Justin, how much of Force India drops off then? And just be like, Yeah, well, they're now a back running team with Manor, and Manor are now world champions with their
Or
amazing
my
car.
driver becomes completely accurate. Alfa Romeo is coming.
Hey, I already predicted lots of many things. So let's see how much I get right for 2017-18.
Predicted Renault on the front row of the grid in wet conditions, so I'd say that is going to be accurate.
I predicted the Force India lineup quite early on there, back in F1 2015. But yeah, so plenty of things to actually talk about, but we're going to save it because we are planning a little special Christmas podcast to tide you guys over.
Maybe a Q&A session, possibly.
And maybe that as well. Look out for that. We'll let you know.
So,
we'll let you know.
We always say,
is the Twitter handles around us?
We've got the
yeah.
We've got the Twitter
Basically,
handles. So
this is like my suggestion, but all season long we've been saying at some point we'll do some sort of Q&A when there's not much to talk about, and we've never got around to doing one. So maybe now we'll actually do one, and if you follow obviously the hostess with the most S, Arav, on Twitter, then Arav at some point might just drop a tweet saying send us questions, and we might just do a little
that'll
podcast,
probably be sometime. I'm guessing like somewhere in December. I'll just tweet out while we're recording the podcast. I'll tweet out, so it won't be actually live, but it'll be almost near enough live. Where we can record it and answer your questions, but we will definitely have something coming up in December to kind of tide us over the winter break and basically give a nice review of the season, which is something a lot of you guys were very interested in. Since pretty much like the 5th podcast or something, you guys were like, "Oh yeah, you definitely."
I heard Santa could be coming on for the podcast.
I'm
That's
looking
what
at
I've heard.
I'm looking at the beard in the room.
There's a rumor.
Let me Google temporary white dye.
I'm going to do my Jeremy Clarkson. There's a rumor that he could be the Santa.
Yeah.
A rumor, but we're not quite sure.
Yeah, that's been it. So till that season review sort of podcast, we'll see you then. But I hope you guys have enjoyed every single podcast of us reviewing the races. It's been a very awesome debut year for the podcast. It's not over yet. We'll have that one more left, so we'll say our proper goodbyes then. But thank you very much for watching this one. If you have enjoyed it, hit that like button. Let us know what you thought about the race and the finale and all that good jazz in the comments below. If you're around here, then do subscribe to this channel for the podcast. Follow us all on Twitter, handles above
Where's
our
my
names.
handle there?
Where is my handle?
It's still going to be above your faces. Still above your faces.
Right.
Still above your faces. And channels in the description, of course, as well on YouTube. So we'll see you guys then. We'll see you guys for the next one. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.